In this video, I'm going to show you how to create folders on a Mac and how to rename folders, and also how to place folders within folders so we can create our file structure. I'll also show you how you can change the views in the Finder to display your folders in different ways. So let's get started. First, I'm going to go down to my dock, and you'll see your Finder right here. So if I click on my Finder, it's going to bring up a window, and it usually goes to the recents folder, as you can see here. But for this tutorial, we're going to put everything in our documents, and that's where I recommend that you put them throughout the course. You can see here I've already have folders that I've created for myself in the documents folder. But first, I want to show you how you can change the view and how you see these folders. Right now, I've got mine set up as thumbnails, but in this icon right here with the 4 squares, you can see there's a drop down, and you can change the way you see these files. You can do a list, you can do columns. Whatever folder you click on, you can see it just keeps expanding outward and outward. You can use it as a gallery. This is probably one of the last ways you want to view your files. I do not recommend this. I usually stick with icons or list. I'll stay in list for this tutorial, and now we're going to make a new folder. So you want to make sure you're not clicked on any other folder that may be in your documents folder. So I'm going to click off of that. From there, I can go to File and New Folder. You see that right here. And you see how it makes a new folder. And don't click anything yet. You can see it's highlighted and it's entitled Untitled Folder. And this is how we can begin to make our file structure. So I'm going to just use generic names now, and you can name these by the assignment or by the project. But the first thing I want to do is make a class folder. So I'm just going to rename it class name. Okay, so now we have a folder for our class. And then you can see this arrow right here. I can begin to drop down, but nothing's dropping down yet because there's not another folder within the class name folder. So to add a folder within that folder, you're going to want to double click that folder. And you can see up here that it tells you you're in the class name folder. And there you would do the same thing again here. And you would make a new folder. Again, just leave it highlighted, and you can then name that folder. I'm just going to say assignment 1. And then you'll click off of that. And there's our assignment. So if you remember, we created 4 folders within the assignment or project folder. So again, to do that, you're going to double click on the assignment folder, and you can see there you're in this assignment folder. Like here's assignment 1, and then you can make folders within the assignment 1 folder. I'm going to go to File, New Folder. I am going to name the first one Assets. And if you remember, assets are everything that we use to build our files, whether it's images, JPEGs, just any file that you use to build your project. And this is where all those assets live, in the Assets folder. I'm going to go ahead and make a few more folders. I'm going to make a new folder. I'm going to call this one Deliverables. And if you remember, deliverables are the files that you would save out that you would send to a client, or in this case, me, a PNG file. Any other file types that you need to send to me or, say, a client. Then I'm going to make another folder, and this is all under the assignments folder. Make a new folder here. I'm going to call this the master file. And I'm going to click off. And the master file, for instance, in Photoshop is a .psd. And what that is this the main file that contains all of our layers and basically the design that we've created. And so you want to keep that file separate so nothing happens to it. And the last folder that we created, make sure you click off of these because you don't want to make another folder inside these, is we're going to make the iterations folder. So I'm going to go to File, I'm going to go to New Folder, and this will be the last folder. And that's iterations. And what iterations are is they would contain copies of the master file. But those copies are just maybe ideas that you've had as you've went along with your creative process. And these can serve as backups, but also where you can go back in. And if you created a master file and you had this particular design, but then you kind of changed your mind and wanted to go with another design idea, well, they would live in here, so you have them in case you want to go back and use them later and not overwrite your master file. So these are more like ideas or creative process files, but in the end, your final file is going to live in your master file, or you can call it master final. Sometimes I'll name it master final. So think about it as these are ideas that you're retaining that you can go back to. But at the end of the day, when you're finished with this project, your master file will live here by itself in the master file or master final folder. So from here, I want to show you how you can move files from either the desktop into a folder, or say if you want to move an image or a picture that's in another folder into one of these folders. So how do we move files around our computer? So the first thing we can do is, you see here, I have an image on my desktop right here. It's a PNG file. And if they're on your desktop and then you've brought up your Finder, and you can see we've made our file structure here, and say you want to move this image into the assets folder, well, all you got to do is simply just take that image and drag it, and you can see when you hover over the folder, it changes, and you can just drop that in there and you can see it disappears from here. So it moved that file into the assets folder. And now when you drop down, you can see that it is in there. And remember, if you wanted to change your view in a Mac, you do that here. And now we're in list view, but you can change that to icons. And when you see it change into icons, that means you can double click on that folder, the assets folder. You can see that's where we're in, and then you can still see that that file has been moved here. And I'm going to go back out to this list view in this file structure that we made. So now, say for instance, you wanted to move this picture of this PNG in another location in your documents. So we can actually open two Finder windows. I'm going to hold the Control key down, then I'm going to click on the Finder, and you can see it brings up options, and you can hit New Finder Window. So just say, for instance, I'm going to go to Downloads, for instance. You can see there's files already in here in the downloads, but this is just an example. So if you want to move this file with two windows open, you see you have your downloads, and then you have where we're at here, which is under documents. Well, you can take that, and I'm just going to drag it in here into the downloads folder. And now you can see this is how you can drag files from one Finder window to another in different areas on the computer. And say if I wanted to move something from the downloads folder into the assets folder, well, then you would just simply drag one of these files and put it in the assets folder. And that's how you just move things around on a computer. And you can do that by making, again, Control click on the Finder and then make a new Finder window. And you can make as many of these as you want. So I have 3 Finder windows open, but just stick for 2 now. And that's how you can move one file to another on a Mac. So now that I've showed you how you can move files from one location to another on your computer, I need to show you how you can copy an image to another folder without moving it from this original location. So I'm going to click on my Finder and open a new Finder window. And then remember, we can go to it again, hit Control and click, and then hit New Finder Window. And there again, we have our 2 Finder windows. So I'm going to make this Finder window go to my Documents location. And just for instance, this one, I'm going to select Pictures. So I'm just going to go in, for example, I've got a personal folder set up here that I just keep some of my personal stuff in. It's got some imagery, some digital paintings I've done. So just say for this file right here, this JPEG, again, if we drag and move it into pictures, you can see it disappears over here. But I don't want to do that. Just say I want to make a copy where this file stays where it's at and just makes a copy into this folder. So I'm going to hit Command Z to undo that, and that's going to put that picture back over. Here I want to copy the file. So there's a couple of different ways you can do that. So I'm going to select the file I want to copy. I'm going to edit. I'm going to hit copy, and that's going to show the name of that file. You can see final underdrawing, and that says final underdrawing. So it's the name of the file. I'm going to hit copy. Then I'm going to click on this Finder window, which is our location that we want to copy it to, and it's pictures in this case. I'm going to edit, and I'm going to paste item. So now you can see that you have that image in two different locations. I'm going to undo that. The other way you can do that is by using your keyboard shortcuts. So again, I've got my file selected, but this time I'm going to use our keyboard shortcuts, which is going to be Command C, and that copies it. And then I'm going to, again, click on the destination in this Finder window, and then I'll click Command V, and Command V is paste on a Mac. And then that shows you how you can copy a file to another folder on the computer, but still retain where that original file was versus moving it. So that covers making new folders, making folders within folders, renaming folders, and moving files around the computer.